Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Cindy Arteaga, a student here in the METSA Academy and also from Arteaga High School. I'm here to present to you my digital portfolio, which I've created, and it consists of various attributes of what I've done in the past 4 years in the academy, as well what I've done in the actual high school that I'm in, varying from my extracurricular activities to what I've done here within my projects in my academy. So first I'm going to talk a little bit about myself and what's within my personal statement. My personal statement shares a lot about what I've been motivated with, my goals, and what I'm planning to do once I go to college. So I'm planning on majoring in civil engineering and currently chosen to go to SMU. And to talk a little bit about my motivation, I've always chosen to want to be an exception of the statistics. And that's the way I put it, because especially being a Hispanic female, a lot of struggles get placed on us in which you get fit into the stereotypes and statistics of not graduating high school, getting pregnant, things like that. So I've always thought about it that way, of how I want to be the exception. So even coming from a family where I don't have so much experience with the American education system, I've been able to fight through it all and been even up to this point, for example, being ranked 5 in my senior class. So those are things that I look into. Now, with the METSA Academy, I've learned so much with my 21st century skills and being able to develop them and master them, in which I'll also present more about it as I go through my portfolio later. But the gist of it is the fact that I've been able to accomplish so much within my goals just because I have supporting parents, being able to come from a family that's diverse, yet bring it into the plate to a school like Arteaga where there's a lot of other students. So I'm going to continue and show you more tabs about my presentation. So here I have my resume, which shares a lot about the different things that I've done in my high school career. So from my education, like I mentioned earlier, ranked 5th in my class, to taking AP courses like Calculus BC, and taking dual credit at Brookhaven, and even being a part of this wonderful METSA Academy. I've also been able to be a volunteer for the Farmers Branch Mansky Library, to working at my church and being an intern at SDS Architecture, and that is the experience that I've had. And then I have, within the METSA Academy, been able to take engineering courses, which will prepare me for the actual engineering courses that I'll be taking once I go into college. And I've learned so many things, from critically thinking and analyzing the design process to being able to create electrical components with my digital electronics course. And listed as well, you have some camps that I've attended, from Hispanic Youth Symposium to Camp Rila, which is a Rotary Youth Leadership Award that I've received last year, and Camp Grady Spruce, where I went my freshman year. And then here listed are some other awards that I've received, from even honors of being a member of the band, being the drum major for the past 2 years, and also being the band president this year, to being able to receive the President Volunteer Service Award, in which I was recognized on behalf of President Obama and the Prudential Community, Spirit of Community, and Time Warner Cable chose me as a correspondent to be a leader for the Al Gore Global Online Town Hall meeting that occurred this past October. So you can see some pictures. Now the resume was the first thing that I had to use my resume for was my shadowing experience, which occurred my sophomore year, which is basically an internship, but in 1 day. So I go in and I shadow and I kind of follow the engineer, and I went to Glenn Engineering Company, and I was able to sit there, interview them, they interviewed me, I heard a little bit more about the civil engineering field, and was able to get a glimpse of what the career was in 1 day. And then here you can see the actual file of my resume. Next we have my recommendations. So recommendations are important because I have to be able to use them in case I want to get a job or be into the scholarships that I want to choose to be able to give them to. And I've had 3 wonderful people provide references and recommendations. So I've had Ms. Tarani, Mansari Tarani, my METSA Academy Director, actually provide a recommendation, as well as Laura Stevenson, who is my math teacher, who I've had for 2 years for Algebra 2 and Pre-Cal, and Sergio Del Santos, who created one for a scholarship that I received earlier this year, so thank you. This here is an essay that I had to write in the previous years about 2 different colleges. The colleges that I chose were Berkeley and MIT. My first choice to go to college was MIT, and Berkeley was an alternative as well. But once I became a senior, I decided that Berkeley wasn't really my choice. And the reason for that was because when you look into the differences in the comparison, you'll notice that Berkeley is more of a public and liberal school, while MIT is focused on engineering and it's more structured and also a private school. And then if you look at costs, because MIT is an actual private school, is much more expensive than Berkeley itself. So those are things that I also had to consider once I made my choices. Okay, listed on my additional items, with the college application process, I applied to the 6 schools that are listed, and I was accepted to SMU and UT Austin. So out of the 2, based on financial aid and the way I would feel more comfortable being in the environment, I chose SMU because it's a smaller school and there's smaller classes provided, which in my case, I reflected it back to how METSA works. And I felt that I would be much more comfortable in an environment like SMU rather than UT Austin, who sometimes has classes over 100. And then these are some college essays that I wrote, which are some examples that I have there. And then I have the habits of mind, which are similar to the learning outcomes that we have for the school. We have them listed in every classroom. You'll notice that there's one right behind me. The habits of mind are things that we usually have to keep in mind as we work in a professional environment. So in whatever career you choose to be in, these are things that you develop as you're learning. And now to my internship. Yesterday was actually my last day at my internship site. So you'll notice that, let you see in the picture, are in this room. And I was able to be an intern for SDS Architecture, in which I had the opportunity to learn so much about the architecture field. Although I was choosing to major in civil engineering, architecture was my second choice. And being able to develop the idea of an alternative, whether or not I wanted to be in civil engineering or architectural engineering. From here, I was able to compile so much information with my TIP program on a basic career research paper to a company report that I had to create for the actual company SDS Architecture. And then I have a PowerPoint which shares a little bit about the different things that I actually got to work on as I was in the internship site. So I'll go through it really quickly just to give you some examples. I actually had a partner who interned with me, and his name was Sergio Garcia, and we worked on the PowerPoint together, and we worked through every day. We were able to be collaborating on various projects that we had for our internship site. So you'll see here, you'll notice a list of things that we've actually done in the company, from working on AutoCAD to Rivet and being able to do tutorials, to working on bid packages where we just organize binders. So you'll notice here it shares a little bit about the bid packages that were for 4 schools that they were currently working on when we entered the internship site. Marketing. So working with marketing, we were able to build a directory and a database that shared all the different architects in the Dallas area. And we also were able to prepare binders that were submitted to Mansfield ISD and Fort Worth ISD in order to be able to gain projects and jobs for future work. These are examples of our Rivet tutorial. My partner and I were actually not we didn't know a lot about the Rivet program and the software because we had actually been in a different course for the engineering that we had here in the METSA Academy. So when we first entered the internship site, we learned so much from Rivet. So it was great to have this tutorial to be able to learn all the little details from. These are some AutoCAD elevations using the software that we have. We went from using AutoCAD 2006 to using AutoCAD 2011. So that was also another change that we got accustomed to. Here you'll notice a SketchUp of a balcony screen that a customer actually came in and he had an idea for a balcony screen. So as an intern, I was able to use SketchUp and build my own design on the SketchUp, which is kind of the way I relate it to is paint, but paint in 3D. So you notice that on the softwares of Windows, you'll notice that you have that tab or that accessory where you have paint. So this is actually really related to that, where you just have it in the 3D version. Here you'll notice that there's corrections where we had the actual prints. We came back and noticed all the marks that were on the prints and had to correct them on the AutoCAD file itself. Here's the design of the B Street house that STS is planning to remodel. So it's a basic design, but I was able to develop the design from the sketched out version that was on paper. And here's the Eagle Line banner. Like I mentioned earlier, Martina is actually the owner and manager of Eagle Line. So we created a banner and helped her be able to promote the windows that she is selling with the European style that she has. And then this is another project that we had with the Greyhound windows, in which I was able to use the AutoCAD file and build the different windows and the constraints across the file. And yeah. So we'll move on to the other. Now we have the learning outcomes. Now the learning outcomes, we have 9 learning outcomes within the METSA Academy. And they're listed as followed. There's active collaboration, and the list is right here as well. And I have different projects and files uploaded that you can just click and actually open up the links and see what I was working on from freshman year to up to this year. So it can vary on what you click on. So you have active collaboration, character and citizenship, and I actually placed my capstone project, which I'll explain later, on that site. And then we have content, skills, and knowledge. Critical thinking and problem solving, which I've used 2 different projects which were really important. The Centroids project, which I used my sophomore year to be able to develop the idea of a civil engineering perspective on centroids. So that was a project in which I really had to focus on critically thinking how centroids work. Here's presentation skills. This is a video clip, which if I have time, I'll show you afterwards, on the comparison of how I was my freshman year to how I was my senior year. This is, it has some more information on a research paper that I created for research skills and APUSH, my AP US History course, and technology and literacy, in which we are in an age where technology is very important. So this skill is very important to learn, especially here in the academy where we have a 1:1 ratio for computers to students. We are able to develop so many skills of technology, especially with the engineering classes. We've developed so many skills on the softwares, and we learned everything through the softwares, which is great. And work ethic and effort, which is probably one of the most important ones in my opinion, because in order to be able to be successful, you have to put some effort and some work ethic into it. Especially as we work in groups and we collaborate, we have to make sure that everyone is putting their full potential and full effort into every project in order for it to be completed to its best. And last, we have writing skills, which even as an engineer and being able to present your ideas, you have to be able to jot them down as notes or bring them out in a finalized paper, because you need to be able to develop your idea and even make it concise and write it down to where someone else can understand it just by reading it. And now we'll move on to my capstone. Capstone is probably one of the most important projects that we have. It's our senior project that we have, in which it's a community service project in which we create a final product and present it and give it and donate it to a community member. My group, in which Julian was a part of it, we were able to create a shelf, but first of all, our initial idea was to create a shed design. Now the shed was going to have 5 sides in the shape of a pentagon. It was going to have a keypad. We have so many ideas from the beginning and from the start. But then we ran into some issues in which, as an engineer, you run into issues all the time, I'm sure. So we realized that A, we were running out of time, B, it was really costly, and Home Depot had told us that they were going to be able to donate materials and money and coupons, but then they kind of backed out on us and told us, sorry, we can't provide that much, or we need to do this in order to do that. And so we were just like, okay, we're running out of time and we're not going to wait. So we shifted ideas and we decided that we would go with a shelf design because the actual daycare needed a storage system because they had none even by the playground. So we decided that as a shelf, it would still incorporate the idea of being able to help with storage, but we innovated it in a way that it had a beanbag for a student to be able to be sitting there, or a child could sit there and either read a book, sit and play with a toy, or take a nap if they needed to. So we had all that incorporated into one shelf design. And if you notice, it's not like any other shelf design where it's just straight. We decided to put as many places where they could place either a statue to books to tools that they would use in class. So we decided. And last, it's my gallery. I have some different projects that I worked on, art stuff that I did as well. So this was a marble sorter that I worked on my sophomore year to be able to learn about the different systems of mechanical engineering to electrical engineering components. So that was all there. We did a puzzle cube my freshman year, so you'll see that. This is actually the larger one, which is a 4x4. The first one that we had to do was a 3x3, but then once you were completed with that one, the people who were already advanced were able to complete the 4x4. And then these are different art drawings that I've done and the clay statues that I've done. So you get to see that. And I'll give you the URL in order to be able to access it. So I'm letting you know where everything's at. These are different pictures of my capstone project. Another thing that we incorporated for our capstone project is in order to be able to get the students themselves pumped and get them to be able to place something on the shelf itself, we wanted them to place their handprints on there. So we ended up titling our project Colorful Hands. So we had them paint their hands, and here I have pictures of us painting our hands and placing our own handprints on there. And so we titled ours Colorful Hands, and you'll notice it says it in the top, it says Colorful Hands. And then down here you'll notice some pictures varying from being in band to attending different camps like HYS, the Hispanic Youth Symposium at SMU, to TGS, the Texas Governor's School at UNT. So you'll notice all those. And last, I would just like to share the impact that METSA has given me. So I've been able to be a lot more confident. I entered as a freshman and I was very shy and I didn't really like to talk to anybody. When I presented, I was really nervous. I didn't even want to go up there and talk to anyone. So I realized after a couple of years, probably the end of my freshman year, I gained more confidence. And that helped me not only within the academy, but I believe also within band and when I was a freshman in soccer. So once I was in band, I was able to even lead up to being the drum major and the band president and be able to be more confident working with others. And then I also developed those 21st century skills, which really helped me, especially with the projects, and be able to learn how it works in the real life professional environment. Being able to base those learning outcomes on real life scenarios and work on the projects in the PBL environment that we have, which is project-based learning, and be able to adapt to the professional environment that will be out there when I choose to be in a certain career. And then, again, like I mentioned earlier, I have been placed with a struggle in which my family is not really experienced with the American education system, but we have all worked together, and with the METSA Academy, I've been able to gain so much and so many opportunities in which it has led me to the right path to, successfully, hopefully next year, attending SMU and doing as much as I can there. So I think overall, the METSA Academy has prepared me greatly, and it's more than a reward, but more of an honor to be a graduate from the METSA Academy. So that concludes my presentation. Anyone have any questions or comments?
Why are you so awesome?
No comments, no questions.
We are all speechless.
Thank you. And I want to thank you for taking the time to come in. I know it's a Friday afternoon and there's a lot that can be going on this particular day, but I appreciate you. Like I said, you've been all great people in my life, and I really appreciate you coming in today. And I do have that video that I mentioned earlier. I'm not sure if y'all want to watch it.
I have a question for you.
Huh?
I know you mentioned you chose SMU because it was similar to the small environment that we have at METSA. Of course, it's a lot bigger because my son went there. So, how would you carry some of the lessons that you have learned here to help you get through that first year, which a lot of students struggle their first year of college? What do you think you're going to use to really help you succeed? I'm sure you're going to be successful, but have you thought about it, and what do you think is going to be most helpful to you?
Well, I think with the fact that my confidence level has risen, I have been able to not worry so much about what others are going to think and just be able to go at whatever I want to choose to do. And when I went and visited SMU, I learned a lot about the formatting of their classes, and they have it very similar to how they work in groups, they collaborate, they actually do projects like we do with the capstone project, where they have an actual room downstairs where they incorporate all their ideas and place them and create final products. So I think that being able to learn all those 21st century skills that I mentioned earlier and already being adapted to them and already having them brought into my life is a lot easier of a transition, because it won't be right off the bat, because I wasn't adapted to a traditional learning environment. I think that right off the bat I'll go in, be able to work in groups, manage them, listen to others, and be able to stand up as well. So overall, I think just the 21st century skills and adapting to them and having that transition will be a lot easier than coming from a traditional learning environment. Any other questions?
Well, I have to say, standing here watching you brought tears to my eyes. I cry easy around here. So, losing, I'm not losing her. I hope she's going to come back. But just not having her here every day next year is going to be very difficult for us.
I think you definitely got me when you said your first year in SMU. I don't think I've fully come to grasp with our seniors are leaving, and that includes 4 years of when we opened our doors back in 2007. You guys are out, out the door. So it's not until now I'm like, whoa, hold on. We got like 2 or 3 weeks left, and you guys are leaving. It's awesome, but also sad.
So I guess I'll present the video, which kind of leads off to that whole transition from freshman year to senior year. Jack,